Oh,
and we're off.
we're off.
Everyone.
Oh, it's good to see you all. Hello, hello, hello. Turning pages here, and lots of different faces.
All the faces. Welcome to the Sid City Social Club for Tuesday, October 5th. And with that, we'll throw it to Sid. Welcome
Hello,
back.
everybody. Thank you. Thank you very, very much. Yeah, I am in Bangkok still, in Thailand. We've been here for months. The country's just emerged from a lockdown to a kind of semi-lockdown, which everybody seems to be doing, and that's kind of the fashion right now. And so you're allowed to go to the park again, and you're allowed to go to a restaurant that's 50% capacity and all that sort of stuff, although we're not allowed to do any of that. Partly because one of us get COVID, we're out for a month, and that messes up the schedule so badly that they're like, please don't go to a restaurant at all. Everybody went to an elephant reserve, which I was really jealous about, because they had 15 elephants who they've rescued from everywhere, and apparently they look after them so well, and they're really lovely. But I saw the photos, and apart from that, we've just been working, not every day. I'm still astonished by the sets that they've built here. They're just amazing. We've got like 2 city blocks of downtown Bangkok have been redesigned to look like Mumbai, but Bombay in our show because it's 80s. And it's just astonishing. And every single little stall and shop along the streets, you can walk in, and it goes on. It's like a sort of wonderland. It's as if they, just in case the camera decides to go inside one of these shops, they dressed it all, but it's all fake. So it's amazing. And then we had 7 hours of rain in 2 days, and so we were all sitting under umbrellas looking miserable for a long time, waiting for the camera people to go. You can shoot again. But we did come here in rainy season. It turns out that Thailand doesn't have summer. It has rainy season and winter. And I guess winter is pretty summery. So it's just like 2 seasons here, but this close to the equator is hardly surprising. So yeah, lovely to see you all. I'm so sorry I've missed a couple of our meetings, but hopefully we'll make up for it. Let's get cracking, otherwise I'll be talking all day.
Not that we'd mind, but we do have some people to get to. Let's chat with Sarah, who has some exciting news to share.
Oh, Sarah.
Hello.
How are you, Sarah?
I am doing really well, actually.
I'm really glad to hear it.
I just started my 3rd week of grad school.
Oh my goodness, fantastic.
Over the summer, I was watching Jeopardy, actually. And there was a woman described herself the way I do, and she happened to be a librarian. And I just kind of went, I would have made a great librarian. And my mother managed to convince me that I wasn't too old to go back to school.
Oh my goodness, Sarah, what a brilliant, brilliant idea.
Thank you.
I'm
loving it so far.
What was your first day like? I mean, did you go into the physical school, or have you been online the whole time?
Online the whole time.
And so how was that first day when you like, oh my goodness, I'm gonna hit the link and join?
Really, really overwhelming. I haven't been in school in, 17 years. So It was a little bit of a culture shock, but once I stopped trying to look at both courses at the same time, took a deep breath, and actually looked at what each course entailed, it was a lot less insane.
And what's the opening salvo? How did they? Because I always like to ask teachers, professors, how did they first speak to you on the first day that you taught? I mean, how do they sell the course? What's the first thing that they talk about?
It's all text. It was nice when I saw that her intro started with her pronouns, which was just such a nice.
Yeah, that is a really warming. You're in the right place. You're in a relatively friendly place.
Oh no, and the intros, it's a whole class of geeks who like sci-fi and fantasy and all kinds of great things. So I'm definitely in the right place.
Did you meet any of them? Did you e-meet any of them? Did you see any of them? Was everyone anonymous?
Yeah, I mean, it's video introductions for the one course, so I at least saw people's faces. But yeah, we've
that's cool.
actually spoken in person.
That's, you know, there's something really interesting about Thailand I found. When you talk, going back to the personal pronoun introduction, which you found comforting. Thailand has a really unusual sociological take on gender. There seems to be a kind of acceptance of a gender plurality that doesn't happen in the West, which is really interesting because it's juxtaposed with a very formal pseudo-religious, you know, well, probably religious structure of, you know, boy girl. But there's a lot of movement in between those two polar opposites or whatever they are, those two poles. And that seems to be very accepted here. And certainly on set, a lot of people I work with are completely ambiguous, for want of a better way of putting it. And I just think that's so refreshing. It's really cool.
Yeah, that sounds really awesome.
People I've been working with the whole time. I saw someone, a script supervisor, who's just a dream and lovely, lovely person. And they took off their mask. And I was like, oh, I never thought you looked like that. Because I've already put a kind of identikit photo fit portrait in my head of what I thought you looked like based on just your eyes.
Yeah. And
then the mask comes off and it changes their look completely. And I've known them for 6 months, which is astonishing. Anyway.
Wow.
So there are kind of weird things happening in my life. It's a kind of bizarre thing to be in such a weird country and miles away from anyone I know too, which is a little bit annoying.
I was a theater major at university, stage management and sound design, but it wasn't like I burned out on it before I got anywhere near graduation, and I just pushed through because at that point, that's what you did. You got a college degree.
Yeah.
And then I spent almost 20 years trying to figure out what I wanted to be when I grew up. And I guess now I figured it out.
That's fantastic, and we know from a couple of people who work as librarians in the club how multifaceted and what an evolution library work and basically curating our knowledge, I guess is basically the way to put it, is going through. What elements excite you? What bits? I mean, obviously, your early days, you can't be expected to have a thesis ready, but what interests you?
So I would try to organize the entire universe if given the opportunity.
My wife too, Shana as well. She's like, we'll organize it. Let's fix it. Let's categorize everything.
Yeah, it's very little makes me happier than getting to make logic out of chaos.
Yeah.
And that was the biggest draw, was just let me organize things. Let me make information easier to find and access it, and let me put the puzzles together so that other people can use them.
Yeah. How do you feel about people? Because that's going to be the thing that you're going to, that's your thing, isn't it? I mean, you're going to be the connection between knowledge and curiosity.
I don't love people, but I'm good with people. People are very surprised when I say I don't like people because I fake it very well. And I like individuals, don't get me wrong.
That's really interesting, because I think I'm not sure, but I might be the opposite. I think I might like people as a whole, but I'm a bit frightened of individuals.
Totally fair.
And how are your family? How is your immediate universe? Well, how is everybody? Because we haven't emerged from any COVID thing at all, but we are now in a different plateau, I guess.
Yeah, no, my family's good. Everyone is vaccinated. My cousin is finally getting married in 2 weeks. 2 weeks?
Oh, congratulations.
A week and a half. It got postponed from last January.
Yeah, sure.
So it's going to be small, but I think there's going to be maybe 30 people.
Yeah.
So, which for my family is a small wedding.
Yeah,
I have no idea what it is normally.
So good. You guys are all well, and so everything's and you've got a terrific new vocation that's totally in your thing. How long are you going to do this course for? About 2 years or 3?
So I'm aiming for 2 years, 2 courses at a time.
Oh, I see. I'm still unfamiliar with the American system. So And I did what was known as a dual honors in the UK, because I did anthropology and geography. So you kind of do 2/3 of each one. Does it look quite like quite a lively job market?
Right now it does. I'm hoping it stays that way.
It probably will. 2 years.
Getting unlucky. The increase in digital communities and digital libraries, I think at this point it's only going to get bigger.
Yeah, and someone who's knowledgeable about how to kind of, I guess, curate all that stuff and basically keep check on it, keep a tab on that. So I think that's just fantastic, Sarah. I think you really are. I just couldn't be happier. This is a really good news story.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for putting your hand up and coming to talk.
Thanks, Sarah. All right, let's go chat with Mark Stanley. Mark is one of the OG members of the Sid fandom.
So the first time I met you was 1998.
Mark, that's ridiculous. We were children.
I hadn't started transitioning yet, so I probably looked about 15.
Fantastic, Mark. That's really great. So that's amazing. Where did we meet? Do you remember?
It was on one of the weekends on the promenade. I think it was in Burbank.
Oh, yes. We had those wonderful meetings once a year, where just friends with early prototypical Sid City Social Club, in fact, but a real life one, physical one, where everybody just turned up and hung out for if they could get to whatever city. I remember we used to try and plan it so we'd go from southwest to southeast to northwest to northeast, so the people who had to travel furthest wouldn't have to the next year as far, because we were infuriated by how expensive conventions were at the time.
Well, and I'm from Canada, so traveling down to the US is expensive.
Yeah,
Right.
We never made exception for Canadians.
My dad helped me out.
What are you up to? What's going on? Because we haven't seen each other for a very long time, so catch me up.
It sounds funny to say, but I actually got my dream job. I am a receptionist at a very slow office, so I get about 3 phone calls a day. And
so you're highly motivated.
I love the relaxed life. I work about 6 hours a day, and
oh, that's wonderful. Actually,
it's all seniors, and
that is a dream job. And you're still in Canada?
Yeah, I live in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. Okay, if you can say that, then you know you're from Canada.
I can't say. I tried. I failed miserably. How is your family? How are you? What's going on? And tell me about if everybody's okay.
Well, my immediate family is fine. As fine as we can be. I'm in Saskatchewan, as I said, which has the second highest rate of COVID in Canada.
Yeah.
And so we're being careful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. But, my mom is fine, and my dad and my stepmom are fine. My sister had COVID right at the start.
Is she okay? Is it a long form?
I mean, I think she's okay. And I miss her because she lives in Vancouver, and
right.
I can't go and see her, and she can't come see us. So.
Yeah. How close have you always been close?
Oh yes, yeah. My sister has always been my closest friend.
Did she know about you in much more intimate terms before you transitioned and helped you through all that period?
Yeah. I think my mom took a couple of years. My dad was fine right away, but yeah, she was always really good. She switched with the name right away. We were in the same gay youth group, and so before I could get any changes done surgically, basically I was going by my new name and my pronouns and everything within that gay youth group and within that gay space, which really helped a lot.
Yeah. Could you mind if I ask a personal question? Hopefully it's not too personal.
Sure.
How long have you been transitioned now, would you say?
Since 1998.
Okay, so like 20 years, vaguely 20 years, 23 years.
It's a little bit more than 20 years now. Like, it's like literally when I went to meet you for the first time in Burbank, I had been on hormones for approximately a month.
Oh my God. And you know what? If you had told me that, I wouldn't have understood you at all. So your experiences over the last are very informative to a lot of people who are wondering about this whole thing themselves. And how have you found what is ostensibly a new life, to be honest? I mean, you're still your same life. I mean, you're still you, but there's if it's true that we are as much what other people think we are as we are what we think we are, then how is walking through the mirror, that experience been for you?
In a way, it's a little bit hard to untangle because I started transitioning right as I was becoming an adult.
Right.
So that transition was also part of it. You know, I was going from school to university, and I was going from sort of childhood to adulthood. And so it was a very convenient time to transition because I could just go to the university.
Everything transitioning, your whole body was transitioning on a level.
Yeah. So and meeting an entire new group of people. And one thing that was very, very difficult for me before I transitioned was feeling that I was lying to people just by letting them look at me.
Okay. Yeah.
And, you know, I couldn't break out of that deception.
It's ironic that you were genuinely deceiving people, and yet they were feeling you were being deceptive after the fact, which is the irony.
I haven't had too much trouble. I've known some people who I know misgender me behind my back and properly gender me to my face.
Yeah. Oh, interesting. But you seem so comfortable. You seem, I mean, you know, I don't know, because we have these meetings, and this particular is Zoom, but you appear to me to be entirely comfortable. So I would have.
Yeah.
You've got a fairly adult idea of how this all works, and pretty relaxed. We all will have something disgusting said about us at some point that we don't merit. It's just a question of what it is they're going to, hone in on, what it is they're going to focus on. Well, I think you're very brave for being so, and people only know what you tell them. So, I think that's tremendous that you do.
I'm a Quaker, and I was giving a talk to a national gathering of Quakers about being trans.
Yeah.
And I realized that there was a person in attendance who was part of my local meeting to whom I had not come out. And so I'm like, I forgot to tell you. And they called from the back of the room. I knew anyway.
Oh, that's really cool. I love the sound. I don't know much about Quakerism. I had a girlfriend many years ago who was brought up a Quaker. What she told me about it was just fantastic, non-intrusive, chilled.
Yeah, I came to it as an adult, and it's really changed my life. It was actually it was Star Trek that led me towards pacifism. And then I was looking for a pacifist spiritual framework.
Yeah, fantastic. That's really great. Well, I'm really happy that you're happy, Mark. You seem like just a happy person.
I think I am.
You've got a job which is one of the laziest jobs in the world, which suits you just fine.
Yeah.
But you know what? Acting is pretty lazy too. So I don't work every day, and then I'm treated like some sort of princess when I do work. You know, are you okay? Do you need your teeth brushing for you? Oh, your coat's not quite right. So I'm one of the lucky ones too. Thank you for talking to me and us. I hope you've got lots of friends here.
Yeah, Elmi was the one who suggested I come. I ran into them and told them how much I liked their play, and they said, "Well, you should come along." So I did. Yeah,
they're one of our foundational members. So yeah, they're very we're all very familiar with them. Thanks, Elmi. Thanks for introducing Mark.
All right, thank you, Mark. It was lovely to catch up with you. Okay, we are going to, I think, talk with Jonathan.
How are you?
I'm very well indeed, thank you. How are you? What's the point?
I'm good. So I was on the social club actually at one point last fall. And when I was on, I talked quite a bit about, science behind Star Trek. And I also announced
Oh, yes.
I also announced I had a project, that was going to be about, all the techno babble and stuff. And it turned out, well, it's around 1,500 pages long. I was like, this will be a simple project. It's not gonna take too long to finish. I'll just finish this up, and maybe in a month or so, I'll come back on to Sid and tell him about it. No, it took me a long time to finish this project. You and
it certainly did. Oh my goodness.
There's around 800.
1,459 pages of A4 or letter-sized text. That's crazy, Jonathan.
I know.
So, have you finished?
Well, there's actually still new Star Trek coming up. So, I mean, there's still stuff I have to continue doing. But
to fold in.
Yeah. Now that I'm done with it, I kind of want to show it off.
You should. What
anyways,
an amazing achievement, mate. That's really fantastic. Can I just ask you one question before you jump in?
Okay.
Is there anything about this whole experience that has taken a good year of your life now that has surprised you?
Well, obviously, the amount of episodes of Star Trek would probably be the most surprising part. How I underestimated that. But I don't know. I just think the thing that surprised me the most is my own determination, because I'm sure if someone actually realized what they were getting into, they'd probably quit while they're ahead. But I said, you know what? I started this. I'm going to finish it. And even though it took me a lot longer than I thought it would take,
Absolutely. Well, jump in. Let us know a little bit about the parameters of the project.
There's 3 total parts. So the first is, it's kind of like a list. It states all things that have to kind of be true in the Star Trek universe. And it does it in a self-consistent way. So like, if there's something in the first part, it has to be consistent with everything else that's been established in the first part. Otherwise It's not one cohesive universe. So I had to find a list of axioms or whatever that had to be true, but that couldn't contradict with one another. The next section is the actual episode explanations, goes into the techno babble in each episode. And at the end, I have a theory zone, and that kind of provides more background detail, and it tries to create like a rational theory around, all the axioms that I covered. There's 2 main models you use to create a theory. And I've actually taken these after physicists. They have a top-down model and then a bottom-up model. And the one I chose was this bottom-up model. This is basically my systematic way of doing it. I watch the episode. I'd be like, is this possible in real life in any way? And then I would say, okay, maybe not. And then what I would do is I would create a new thing to do it. I just went down this list and I said, did I establish this already? And if it's not something established, then I added it to the list. So
you're telling me that you are basically cataloging the various terms and ideas in scientific terms and ideas, and recategorize them if they don't quite fit the science that you and I understand today, to fit the science? Or are you working out how to, or just inventing a kind of pseudoscience for them to fit into?
Yeah, this is pseudoscience, unfortunately. It's possible that while this is completely made up fiction, and you couldn't make a self-consistent universe out of all 800 episodes without invoking large amounts of fictional stuff. Man, I realized you could glean some important scientific, like real-world insights, based on these particles. So maybe these particles don't exist in real life, but maybe they can inform real-life technologies to maybe imitate them, or that's just what I noticed.
Gosh, this is an astonishing feat. It's almost like a kind of wiki.
The wiki has a lot of formatting things you have to also consider, and that would just make it an even longer project. And I wouldn't be here talking to you about it today because I'd still be working on it.
You'd still be working on it. So what an astonishing achievement, mate. That's really, I'm just amazed. You've got so much interesting information about every episode. We're at season 4, episode 50. No, episode 457. Okay.
The problem is Star Trek has been written by a collection of tens of different writers over the years. The reason why it's so hard to create a self-consistent set of rules. It's because Star Trek has been written by collections of 10 different writers over the years, and each writer is different. And these writers aren't going to agree with each other. And that's a general problem in science fiction with time travel, is that no one really knows how time travel would actually work. So it's really up to them. But it's magnified in Star Trek because there's so many different writers inside the same universe that have to now.
Absolutely. I'm curious about one thing, Jonathan.
Mhm.
There is a real world corollary between what you're saying in terms of how elastic the core canon of Star Trek is, and how different writers, specifically different executive producers, probably a better way of putting it. The chief writer on each series has enormous latitude to change elements within certain canonical constraints.
Yeah, that's actually a very interesting point. So now we have to take this model we created independently of all this messy data and 400 years of cobbling together formulas. And then we have to see if it can produce those results.
That's fascinating, Jonathan. I mean, that's really astonishing. Do you feel comfortable where you are? Or do you think that you've got to, do you sleep well? If you know what I mean.
Yeah, well, I'm definitely sleeping better now that the project is finished. But I overthink everything. Every time I watch a movie or show, I just have this nagging feeling of needing to overanalyze it afterwards. So obviously that happened when I was watching my favorite TV show, which was Star Trek, obviously. The main motivation for the extent of the project, the reason why I went for more episode by episode, more thorough analysis, it's actually because of the StarTrek.com website database. So little tab at the top that says database. And it's in complete disarray. I have no idea who's manning that database, but they're just terrible at it.
You think you would have time or the energy to suggest to them that you might show them the body of your work, which is and say, listen, do you want me to clean up your database?
That's my dream.
Well, I think you very seriously, because I'm super impressed with the work you've done, the countless hours and the tireless chronologies, that you should take a snippet of this recording and send it to them with your letter saying, I would really like a chance to clean up your database, or at least make a case to clean up your database. It's such an important site. We should do a lot better. These anomalies that you're finding, that's interesting stuff.
Because anyone can find a plot hole, but I can find a science plot hole, when they don't get the science right between episodes, and then try to explain it.
Fascinating. You might get people start talking. Which is what we want,
Yeah, and I think if the database was improved, it could be kind of like a good, maybe a watering hole, maybe even a way to connect the fans with the show better. The show's always been a fan-run production, so maybe this would be a good place to sort of reforge that relationship.
Absolutely, to give the power back, a little bit of that power back. I think that's a wonderful aspiration, Jonathan.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome, Jonathan. You're very welcome. Thanks for coming on.
Bye.
Thanks, Jonathan. We'll be in touch about this, okay? All right, we're going to go check in with Ari, who is in New Orleans. New Orleans? I'll let you say it. I was going to do one pronunciation, and I changed it halfway through, and it came out really weird.
Yes.
Well, it's lovely to see you, Ari.
It's been a while.
How are you? It has been a while. How are you?
Oh, it's been a little crazy this last month. Hurricane.
Yeah, we heard all about it. I mean, even in Thailand, I heard all about it.
We were 7 miles below being a Category 5. While New Orleans has recovered pretty decently, the river parishes right now there's literally like 2 or 3 cities that have just been wiped off the map completely.
They're just gone. Yeah,
they're just gone.
Wow.
It's great to see the people come together and other people help one another, but it's like, again,
Yeah, yeah.
We have a very large immigrant community here, and Vietnamese and Croatians. And they're very, very heavily into fishing and shrimping, and living off of that. You just go an hour down south and there's a whole community of Vietnamese individuals who are fishers.
What is the feeling in, I mean, where are you in town, or are you out in one of the outlying areas?
I'm in town. I literally just rented a new apartment on Friday. I am 5 blocks away from where I work.
Fantastic.
And if any of y'all know New Orleans at all, I'm in the Lower Garden District, and it's a beautiful little area. It has all of the original hardwood flooring from the 1800s, from the late 1800s. It still even has the original French doors from the early 20th century.
Oh my goodness! Wow.
Yeah, the house itself was built in 1884.
My goodness, that's positively ancient by US standards. That's amazing.
Not by New Orleanian standards.
Okay.
New Orleans is older than the United States.
Oh, really? Tell us about that.
It was actually started by King Louis. The purchase was during Jefferson administration. Napoleon ended up selling it because Louisiana used to be from Louisiana all the way up to Wisconsin.
Right.
And all of those little territories in between were just, it was kind of amazing. Louisiana and New Orleans was here 50 years before the United States was founded.
Wow. So that's
yeah.
before the state, the Republic of New England, or any of those places that I mean, not New England, but
Yep.
Massachusetts, that whole area came into being. If I'm recalling my history correctly, which I never do because my mind is shot, but there was some help given to the Americans by the French at that time.
Yeah, if it wasn't for the French, the United States wouldn't exist as it is right now. France ended up giving a lot of munitions, and there were several generals that were sent over from France to be able to help the Continental Army of the United States. Our Navy was barely existent. We couldn't really go head to head with England in terms of that. So we ended up hiring a lot of privateers. France wasn't directly in the war, they would advise. And
Yeah.
It's complicated. It's always very complicated with the French.
Absolutely. Tell me what your relationship, what New Orleans, I can't remember how you said it, but New Orleans relationship historically with the African American community, because that's a very special relationship too. It's a very different type of relationship you've had over the centuries, isn't it?
So New Orleans, for the longest time, had the largest population of freemen of color. You could have slaves, African American slaves, right alongside African American freemen, because it was primarily from France. A lot of them were born there in Louisiana. Some of them, ended up also coming over from Haiti. Traditionally, we had a lot of things going here for the African American community. There's very, very old lines of French Creole peoples here that you can trace some of the different lines, just all of these different, very French names. And you had this terminology that was specific for them, mulatto, quadroons. The percentage of mixture of African Americans within society here in Louisiana was just kind of amazing.
It is amazing because apart from anything else, sorry to interrupt you, but that one particular area, food, which is of a great interest to me, is that cross-pollination of what was basically Jamaican and French. That world sort of not quite African because of the African insistence on everything being about yams, but rice came in and all of that sort of stuff came, a kind of Caribbean influence there. what has resulted in some of the best food in the United States of America. That's pretty amazing.
It is one of the best restaurants here in New Orleans is by a woman who has generationally owned a restaurant here called Dookie Chase, and she came from a long line of cooks. She was one of the first people to be able to open a restaurant as an African American woman. She also ended up winning a Lifetime Achievement award from the James Beard Foundation as well. Even more people coming in nowadays that are adopting the Creole or Cajun way of cooking. We have an Israeli Southern Louisianan comfort food restaurant here, Shaya's Vietnamese po' boy place.
Yeah, fusion, I think, when in people and in food is very exciting. I think, the more fused we become is the more wonderful we'll all end up, and the more delicious our food, certainly. I think that's amazing. I think that's just fantastic. You're so lucky. People are so, I'm going to be so jealous that you can walk out and have access to all this delight, all these delicious things that people only read about or see on TV.
Some of the best restaurants in New Orleans are like maybe 10-minute walk away from my house.
That is yum-tastic, Ari.
It is. Because I remember Benjamin Sisko, his dad was from New Orleans. And it was one of my favorite things in that because he ended up going back to Earth to New Orleans, ended up working with his dad for one of the episodes.
You know what, I think that's a wonderful thesis. I think that's a tremendous idea. You should absolutely look into that. There's so much, it has so much potential to go in different useful directions. This in cross-pollinatory cultural idea that is right now, we're swimming a little bit against the tide.
One of my favorite restaurants was a place in Texas. It's called Underbellies in Houston. His version of American food is whatever the heck he wanted to be able to cook, because we end up taking and molding and creating our own things.
You made me hungry, but all I've got is this, which is I think it's Japanese seaweed snack, and it's basically sheets of seaweed. They're delicious, but I still feel hungry after a sheet of seaweed. I don't know if you've ever seen these things. Yeah. They've got to be great for kids. Do they have them in this? I don't know if they have them in this, but that's basically it. You just eat that, like crunchy, a little bit fishy, weirdly. Anyway, I'll worry about that later.
There was a place up in DC that was Sudanese. I'm hoping one day that comes down here.
I'm interested in finding Sudanese too. I mean, that's another fusion because that's African and Arabic, and that's a very unusual food because they source all their food from the geography. So this is a country that outside the Nile band hasn't got a huge amount of water, and especially in the far west, you are eating really desert stuff. But I love some Sudanese food. There's a twice cooked lamb that I love for those who can eat meat. It's just I've been looking for this recipe all my life and I can't find the recipe. And I've been asking they bring it out at weddings and it's totally delicious. And then there's a Sudanese tomato salad, which I still make, two different kinds. Sorry, you sent me off on a reverie.
No, food is a thing. Food is a very happy thing.
How are your family? I didn't ask. Is everybody okay? Because not only hurricanes, but also this COVID.
Everybody else has been doing really well. I think you ended up seeing the dog here, Endeavor, not too long ago. He is going to be starting residential training for service animal this month.
Wow, that's really hardcore. That's really a high bar.
He's a Tavern. He's very goal oriented, and at the end of this 3 months after his testing period, it'll be a full 1-year program that he'll go through, and he'll be a fully licensed service animal.
Congratulations to him. To you too. Well, that's fantastic. That's really great.
I wanted to be able to drop the links again in the chat for the places that are helping out still with the hurricane and the aftermath of it, if that was okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. What a great idea. Some people might be able to help. So I think that's a tremendous idea.
I highly recommend all 4 of them. They work directly on the ground, rebuild and help individuals within the city of New Orleans to be able to really focus in on getting people shelter, food, all of these different things so that they can survive this.
It's so helpful to have someone who knows the territory, who lives there, to recommend good causes. To have these local little helpful targeted causes is really, really useful. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Ari. We'll wrap it up. Thanks.
I'm going to love you and leave you guys. Have fun. Until next time. This is my outdoor wear. My little...
Hi, Sid.
Classy.
Bye-bye.